And it's not a list she has to create. It's outstanding balances, one-liner, right here. It's there, you know? Run it on the thing and then just
Put it on
format it to a...
Like copy and paste it?
No, you copy and paste it, do whatever.
Save it as a PDF.
Upload
Give it to
it.
him tonight, have a friend, if you watch news. Give it to him, just give him a picture.
He wants you to print the list for us.
Save it as a PDF.
Yes, sir.
One more thing, I was talking, now, our tax title accounts are something totally different, okay? And those, when Carol Lee handed over the subsequents that she did hand over to the treasurer's office this year, they were supposed to get a letter, from what Tammy told me, a letter of intent to foreclose. That never went out, okay? That would have rattled, but that would have rattled me if I got a letter like that in the mail. I mean, that's gonna rattle people, intent to foreclose. That never went out. I know we have a new treasurer who's gonna be starting. Unfortunately, that's something that is not a priority, because I think there's other stuff from what Tammy was, and I think that's a shame. Because, so I don't know if there's some way.
Well, I think the first step is to do
The
the delinquent taxes, and then we can chip away at the liens. It's been an ongoing problem since I've been on the board. We've always been behind, and there's never been the time, the money to dedicate to doing that job properly.
Do we have a tax attorney currently?
I believe our attorney does
do tax title.
We have a tax title attorney?
Yeah.
And is that covered in the, no, that's separate, and that's a separate line item in that, and that's, okay.
Right.
Because perhaps, you know, the board should look at the tax title of who's in there, pick out a few big ones, especially some out-of-towners who possibly have their land for sale for $1 million, but owe the town a ton of money. That maybe we should, maybe you could at least start with that one, watch how quickly they pay you. And they're out-of-towners, so I'm not talking about anybody who's gonna watch us on, camera.
Well,
Say, you're
I
talking to
upload
me.
it to YouTube, I get people watching this from Alaska and
seriously
Florida
don't-
and Germany.
Companies watching Templeton on YouTube.
That's kind of sad, but
You
it's
always
true.
wanted to be a star.
All right, so, are we all set? Did we vote?
We didn't vote.
Okay. I forgot what the motion was. Oh, to send a letter to Carol Lee, to
Yes,
get that on the website. And was it seconded?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so Patrick?
Yes.
Virginia?
Yes.
And Julie?
Yes.
Now we can get back to what's on the list here. The letters to Light and Water is next on the list. I don't have my copy with me.
I don't either.
I have mine. I have mine from last week.
I may have, actually.
I did last week's stuff.
Well,
Go ahead,
Mr.
Julie. Oh, whoever.
Well, I did ask to have this put on, so I'd like to kick off. Go ahead. What I'm looking for from the Board of Selectmen is to write a letter to the Light and Water Commissioners, similar to the letter that I submitted at the last meeting, asking for a written report to answer certain things about the multiple water main breaks, which long-term debt payments go with which phase. Okay, they had phase 1 and phase 2 from the Tater and Howard report that was done in 2002, 2001. And I would like to know which debt is associated with which part, which phase, okay? I believe they finished all the way up to, and I included that information, a couple of the pages from that report in the end. So phase 1, a new water storage tank off Hospital Road, that's been done, okay? 12-inch water main on Bridge Street, that was done. New booster pump station on South Road, that was done. The total cost of that was $1,847,000. Now, I don't know if that's part of the 40-year USDA loan, or was it a different borrowing. So what I would like this report is to break down the projects and how they were funded, how close are they to retiring, okay? So that we'll have information, okay? And I would like it to be in writing. And it's the same thing up to Phase 2 improvements. 16-inch water main from tank access, which was up on Hospital Road, down Highland Ave, that was $250,000. 12-inch water main from the access road to Bridge Street, that was $160,000. Okay, and I think it got all the way up to number 7, where it says new 16-inch water main on Patriots Road, and that never got completed. I know when the Baptist Road was fixed, Otter River Road had improvements, North Main Street, Pheasant Lane, Brooks Road, Willow, Brickyard Road, and the water main on Lord Road. I know, I'm 99% sure that those projects were completed. Those projects that I just mentioned as part of Phase 2 were $1,917,000. So I think for the town, we need to know the debt associated with this project and when that debt retires. Okay? That's what I would like to find out from this report. I would also like to know a list of water main breaks for the past 4 years with the dates and locations and the time of the water main breaks. Some of these questions have been answered at light and water meetings, but they're not televised. Their meetings are not posted on the town website, and very few people attend them. So I think it would be worthwhile to the citizens of Templeton to have a written report done. And the Board of Selectmen it's within our right, according to Chapter 93, Acts of 2000, to ask for reports from time to time from the manager of the Light and Water Department. So that's what I'm asking for.
Okay. Oh, go ahead, Virginia, now.
I agree that we should be able to get all of this information. What I would like to see happen, and I've been talking to Jeff at great length, is to allow Jeff to go and have a conversation with him first. And just so that we can maintain some kind of a back and forth with him that he isn't going to get insulted by, or I think.
I feel
insulted. I think that, and Jeff has said he is certainly willing to do that, to go have a face-to-face conversation with him and see what the problem is, and giving us all this information, using your letter as what.
Just a basis.
Yeah, as a basis for what information we want, and let him go see. And if that fails, then I would have no problem in sending the letter.
It's just a letter asking for information. That's all it is. It's not, I'm not insulting anyone. A request for information should not insult anyone.
I'm sure it's not meant that way, but they're probably going to take it a different way from the way it's being sent.
They work for us.
I think Jeff's
Always
gonna
remember, they work for us.
I think what I'd like to do is break it down into 2 separate letters. One with the 2 debt items, Phase 1 and Phase 2, just in one letter, just by itself. And then the other letter with the water main breaks, and the other thing you said
Right,
before that.
when was the last ISO fire protection?
Yeah, I
There's a whole
would,
list of
I would
things
break it
that
down into 2 separate letters, send them, you know. Just because, I think if we throw it all in one letter, and I've talked to John, I've talked to the other commissioners, because I am on that commission. I think if we break it down, they're not going to feel as ganged up on. They feel like they're being ganged up on, okay? Now, don't start with me. I know, but that's, you know, you're asking for a lot of information. It's going to take them time to do it. If we can break it down and get one before the other, otherwise we're going to have to wait until they get it all. I'm just saying, that's what I would do. I would break it down into 2 letters. You were first.
I think that sounds like a fine idea. I think the 2 letters should be formulated and sent at the same time, with Virginia's suggestion that they are brought to the Templeton Light and Water Plant by Mr. Ritter with the how do you do, let's get it together, and it's presented at the
Let's
same time.
work together. Yeah.
Okay, that seems to make sense. It'll make everybody happy, try and calm the waters, and yet get the information that you're looking for.
Mr. Dempsey.
On the first section having to do with the debt, isn't that information available for the town accountant?
I don't know.
It's not specific, he has the amount of debt, but he
Right,
doesn't
we have
know
a total
which
amount of
things
debt.
it's
Yeah.
associated with. We don't have a breakdown of which things it's associated with. That's what she's asking for us.
Right,
to
and
break
when it
down,
retires.
And when each one is retiring.
So,
As, seeing as you're a commissioner of the water department, do you know the answer to the question about how many water main breaks there's been?
I do not.
Okay, so then my second statement would be, fine, 2 letters, whatever. But I think you're throwing Mr. Ritter into the middle of this, and you're saying, talk, talk, talk. We need the facts on paper. That's what people are asking for, the facts on paper.
And that's what he's going
If
to
I
ask
want
for.
information, can I finish, please?
I'm sorry.
As anytime I ask, I need information or send off, I always do it in the form of an email or a letter. Because when you're talking or you're on the phone saying such and such, unless you can write and do shorthand real fast, you're gonna miss part, and it's all subject to interpretation. If someone puts it on paper, here's the facts, this is what we have for bond debt. This is where the water main breaks have been. And is that another one out here on Patriots Road tonight?
I saw the
No, I think
equipment.
they're working on a valve,
Oh, okay.
a leaky valve. Worn out.
Yes, Will.
Having 2 letters generated and delivered by the town coordinator, that way there is no question as to what we said in the meeting. It's written, but it's also verbally talked about at the same time. There can't be, well, we didn't talk about that, and now you have to issue a letter. If they both go at the same time, there's no question. I'm here to take and talk about these particular subjects. Here they are in writing. I'm here on these 2 items. Please respond to these in writing so that we can end up settling and going forward, as far as getting the data. I wouldn't think that doing it that way, there should be any question on his part whatsoever. All it is a request under open meeting for data, etc. I mean, this is a process that you should be able to go in and request information from anyone in town for transparency, and that's my interpretation of how we should go about it, is do it both at the same time, have the individual present it, and have a discussion around both.
Bob?
Yeah, if we vote to send the letters tonight, do we have to wait for another 3 weeks to have the letters approved?
No.
Or will we be sending them,
I would, my thought process would be that they would be typed in the next day or so that when we come in and sign payroll, we can look at them and either approve them or ask for something else to be worded, and then they can rewrite it, and then we can sign it and get it off, hopefully, within a week. Does that sound okay?
I don't have a problem with breaking it down into 2 letters,
Yeah.
but I believe it needs to be done concurrently.
Yeah.
And not put off.
Yeah.
And it's a request for information, that's all it is. And if the information doesn't exist, then, there's no timetable when we get it back. Some of this might take a while, might take some digging.
Right.
I understand that. But I believe we owe it to the citizens in Templeton to try to get some kind of explanation in writing about some of the issues involving the water department.
I would like to add one thing to it, because my concern is how many more times are we going to have to dig up Baldwinville Road after it gets repaved this spring? So what is the plan going forward for Baldwinville Road?
I think there isn't.
Well,
That's,
We either do Balls Road or we don't.
Well, that's, one of my questions is, what is the age of the water mains along the length of Ballinville Road? How many water breaks have occurred on Ballinville Road? And will the water mains be replaced before the $5 million road
Okay, I
reconstruction?
didn't,
I know, you didn't have it in front of you. I wrote it, so I should.
that's, yeah, that's.
And originally, that would have all been done, but now they've changed the scope of the project, so.
Well, I don't think it was ever included as
It
part
was
of
never
the
included.
project. Even when it was full-depth reconstruction. Yeah.
Well, I know the upper end, well, the upper end, this end of Ballinville Road is a lot newer than the lower end of Ballinville Road. Because I can remember when they came up by my house.
That was sewer.
That was sewer.
It's all the same.
That was just sewer?
Yeah.
It's all the same cement.
Yeah.
That's sewer. That was, we had to do sewer.
You see, even if there could be a plan to replace the part that's, where the failure, to me, seems from the booster station in Ballinville, on Ballinville Road down, because that's where the most of the pressure
Where they
is.
keep,
Yeah.
yep.
I think a lot of the problems over there, and I've asked this question at one of the meetings, was the level in the tank. They try to save money on electricity at peak hours. They raise the level when the electricity's the cheapest. 10 feet in the tank is 50 pounds at the lowest point of the pipe. They say it's not a lot, but if you look at the chart, when that tank's full, and that's when the lines blow, they gotta do something with the level of the tanks, whether it be run them half full and no brakes, or full and brakes, is a big difference. 10 feet's.
So there is something they could do. Or it appears
I
as
don't
there
know
is.
how they're running them. I really don't get an answer. I ask questions, but it's a end run around, well, it's only 3 to 5 pounds per foot, but 10 feet is 30 to 50 pounds.
Okay, any other discussion? Sure. Okay, so we have a motion, made and seconded to write 2 letters. Try to get them done within the next couple of days so we can look at them this week and make corrections and get them out by either the end of the week or
Well,
next
so
week.
Jeff is gonna bring them. He's gonna deliver them.
But we're gonna approve it
Approve it,
first
right,
before we
right.
sign it, payroll
Right.
and stuff like that. All right, any other discussion? Yes?
Do you have any expectation of return?
Well, that's what Julie was just saying, some of that's gonna take a while to,
Yeah, but I mean, open-ended or?
I don't know that we're gonna put a date on it right now, but,
Yeah, maybe we could ask, maybe Mr. Ritter could ask for an estimate
and how long it would take.
how long it would take.
That's why with the 2 letters, one of them, they can probably do a lot quicker than the other one.
Isn't it 10 days for public records laws?
It is, but if the material is there or they can't locate
Well, I
it, they
mean,
know it's
to
somewhere,
at
they
least
can.
have him give you a response. The rule is to give you a
It is.
response,
With
to
it-
say, nice and politely, it's gonna take us a couple of weeks
Right,
to
right.
dig this stuff up.
Right.
At least don't let it go unanswered.
So,
Them, not you.
well, that's why Jeff will, when he goes up, they will ask if they have any idea how long it will take them. Okay, yes.
That'd
The
be
only,
something we
the
could
only
do.
thing that concerns me is that there was an article in the paper today, but I didn't get to read it, about Quabbin being low. Better hope we get some winter, snow this winter, because the water tables can't be very high. I went by the reservoir going to Leominster this morning, and that is down. We never had a limit on how much water you could use this summer. They did in Leominster. So, you know, you
But-
lose too much water out of those tanks, and you have to replace it. We didn't get any snow last winter. We got very little rain this year, this summer. And it depends on what happens again, because the groundwater levels can't be high. So, you lose a lot of water, you've got to replace it. It's not an easy thing to do.
Okay. All right, we will take a vote to send these letters. Patrick? Yes. I am going to abstain officially. It was, Julie made it, and Virginia, I believe, seconded it.
Yeah.
A half hour ago. Before we had all this, before we had all the discussion.
They must pay.
Virginia said she seconded for discussion.
No, that was
That was the last thing.
I tried it.
Well, it worked.
So Pat voted yes, I'm officially abstaining. Virginia?
Yes.
And Julie?
Yes.
Guess you know that sucks.
Two separate.
Two separate letters.
Two separate letters
So this
delivered
part would be in
and delivered.
All right. Next on the agenda is discuss the 2009 BOR financial review.
Yeah, but today they were big enough by Campbell.
Who wants to start this?
I'll bring it up
Hey,
again.
quiet, please.
Seems to be my lot in life to repeatedly make a motion to accept the financial management review for the town of Templeton from the Division of Local Services from October 2009. So I will make that motion yet again.
Accept it. Now, I'm not sure what that, does that mean that we're,
We're going to accept it and look at it.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, I thought you-
at 3 years ago.
Yeah, I thought
No,
it
it was
said,
never looked at.
accepted
It
by
was
the
never,
town.
was
they wouldn't
never-
open it, wouldn't
It
crack it
was
open.
summarily rejected.
well, that's ridiculous. Second. There you go.
Steeple's still on the church. Didn't fall off. Figure that one
I think I lost something there.
The world didn't end hellfire and brimstone when we voted.
All right.
Well, when we made that
Well,
motion.
there's a
I
motion.
second it.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are a number of things that are actually outdated because the report's so old. But there are other good pieces of information. I believe the first three primary recommendations we should probably focus on and discuss. You know, the first primary recommendation is create a town administrator position. The second one is prohibit elected officials from holding any other position. And 3, eliminate the personnel board. And the reason why they would eliminate the personnel board is because those duties would be folded into the town administrator.
So I think one's gotta happen before you can do the other.
Right.
But,
Right, but you can't start.
yeah, no, I understand. And I'll say the same thing I said last week. How can we create a town administrator position when we can barely pay Jeff, a town coordinator, which is a lot lower salary than this position's gonna be?
I think there's two ways we can, actually, they're not mutually exclusive. The Government Study Committee can look at different ways to create a town administrator position. You can also do it by bylaw, okay? We could look at other towns' descriptions, and they're very different. Some give a lot of power to a town administrator, some give limited power. Some are balanced between the board and the town administrator. This is basically, it impacts the whole town, but it's how are you going to run your town, the day-to-day operations of the town. How much authority and power are you going to put into the town administrator position? And you can write that with the bylaw.
Their suggestion is a fully empowered town administrator.
Right, but that's a recommendation. So we can do baby steps. All right? Just because you vote it once, doesn't mean you can't change it. Okay? We've had a town coordinator for almost, what, 15, 20 years? Okay?
Something like that.
Yeah, so I think times have changed. Most of us have jobs. We can't be in here full-time to handle and run the town. The town has gotten bigger, so I think it's time to look at and discuss how we can proceed. Probably the quickest way is to do it by bylaw, but we would need a lot of open dialogue and discussion. And I don't see any harm coming from that. Even if we do nothing, at least we'll have had the discussion.
I agree. The reason I wanted to get the study committee back up and running is because I think we're ready to move to a town administrator form of government. And I think that whether it comes with little bits at a time or whether it all happens overnight is a whole different thing. It's gotta I think it's gotta happen. I think it needs to happen.
Chris?
Yes, yeah, I know, I saw her. There was a couple of hands up. I was just giving the board first shot here. Yes, Jeff?
A couple of comments. The position of town coordinator that I inhabit does not exist in town bylaw, in town policy, or in statement of law. It is, in fact, an administrative post created by the board, as you can do, or make it go away as you do. And the closest equivalency under state law is something called administrative assistant to the board. It was probably a title called executive secretary years ago, evolved into administrative assistant, which is a recognized title, but here we call it town coordinator. Town administrator can be created by state charter, it can be created by bylaw, local statute, or it can be created by fiat, by the board. You dictate it, it is so. The authority you give to a town administrator can be as much or as little as you see fit. In discussions I've had with Will and Virginia and others, a simple bylaw would be, for instance, notwithstanding anything, the town of Templeton creates the position of town administrator, reporting directly to the Board of Selectmen, and imbues in that position the following authority. Bullet, 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 whatever you want, as much or as little. It could be to be the personnel administrator of the town, period, and nothing else. Then I'm the town coordinator, except that I have personnel authority. Or it could be as many bullets and as much authority as you choose to delegate into that position. It does not have to be all or nothing. Where it tends to be all, the position is called town manager. And that's maybe what you're thinking of when you say delegate it all. Well, that's really called town manager. And the manager has complete authority and the board becomes a policy-making body. Just so I clarify.
Sue?
I think the motion was to accept the DOR report. That
Yep.
doesn't, the recommendations. The recommendations, you're kind of hashing and getting into it now, each little one. I mean, and as Julie said, some of them are moved right now because it was done 3 years ago. How about just accepting their recommendations and then you can work from there? You know what I'm saying? You don't have to sit there and start hashing and trashing through all of them now. You
Right.
can just accept their recommendations and then
We're just
go
killing
to
time.
which ones. I don't know how many people here remember that meeting where those gentlemen who took the time to come to this
Yep.
town, talk to a lot of people, were basically heckled out of the room. And coming from my office, I don't have the option to tell the Department of Revenue, forget it. I do that, we don't get a tax rate set, we don't get tax bills out, plain and simple. And to me, I mean, I just sat here in total shock that night that, okay, you're not gonna listen to the Department of Revenue? You gotta be kidding me, you know?
They did.
No, I know.
All right, so the motion is to just accept the report and nothing else at this time. Yes, Will?
Just, we ended up reviewing this, just the highlights at the advisory board. And most folks who were at that meeting looked at it as this is a lot of common sense items in here. I'd just like to point out that towards the back, the time sheets that is in that document is something that we've already done. If you look at items 4, 5, 6, and 16, we're actually progressing towards those already by our financial policies, goals, capital improvement committee, talking about free cash in our documents, both as the goals and the policies, and talking about long-term financial planning with a 5-year plan. I mean, I could go down a few more of these, and we've already started working on that. So these are good recommendations. We're not going to implement all of them tomorrow, but we should at least recognize this is a good document for us to reference back, accept, and start working towards those over a period of time. It may not be all this year, it could be over a 5-year period. But some of these really need to be done post-haste. And as I talked the last time, the town administrator position, I felt very strongly about. I brought up that the fact that the bylaw from Sherburne was 3 paragraphs. They gave that individual the ability to end up running the day-to-day. It didn't say that you could do everything, but it did say that the day-to-day operation, and it is difficult. The way we run today is very inefficient, and it's costing us time and money. Time and money. And that's how I have to look at it from our perspective. It could be as simple as saying today or tonight, Jeff, we want you to end up doing this, 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 and this, and we'll look at other things in the future.
I don't think I'm ready to do that tonight yet, but.
No. This is, the motion is just to accept the report, so. And, you know, and Will was just saying, some of these lesser items other than the first 3 there's other ones that we have started to implement as well.
Absolutely.
So,
As Julie just pointed out, we did it tonight. Continue to pursue delinquent taxes.
yeah, well, and the regionalization we've been starting to do.
See, we're actually getting things done here.
So instead of trying to come up with ways to streamline, we have a blueprint, we have a playbook that we can either choose to go by or reject. So I'm just saying, let's look at it.
Took us 3 years to figure out how to open it up.
3 actually, it's 2009.
If I may, one more?
Yes.
One of the things that, I went over a seminar this Saturday, and I did talk to a few people. They make recommendations to a lot of towns. Ours, unfortunately, has got a longer list than a lot of communities. That's because we have been doing the wrong thing. We have not put the right things in place. If we start putting those right things in place, I think a lot of going forward will correct itself here on the finances.
All right, any other discussion? Yes.
Current board members, you all have a copy and have read them?
Read it.
Read
They
it
were all in
all
that
day
book.
today, that's what I did.
I had read it in the past, and I reviewed it again today, so. And I said, gee, we're doing that. So, the first 3, I think that Julie mentioned, those are the big 3, and, you know, those will need discussion, and those will need other, you know, things, but the town administrator, my concern is the money on that. Other than that, I think if we go to a town administrator, we could probably cut our select board down to 3 members. I don't think we need 5, but that would be up to a town vote as well.
Other towns all got 5. What's Winton got? What's Ashburn
I don't know.
got? What's Athol got? They cut the selectmen's pay down about $500 a year for.
Well, we're not getting paid, so.
We're not getting paid at all.
But they did to start with. You're working up to the point to start to get paid. You got the 3. So I know what you're up to.
Really, you want to go there?
I want to know that. Face it.
All right, Peter.
Come on, Peter, yeah.
No, my point is, I think if we have a town administrator, we don't need 5 select board members.
Why do the other towns have them?
Well, that's up to the other towns, and that'll be up to the citizens of our town if we get that far. It's not gonna be something we're gonna decide. That's a town vote. So I'm just making my point. Yes.
Two more points, is that the advisory board, as one of its goals, is looking at stipends in general that are equitable and comparative to some other communities our size. And talking about the town administrator, I've got a list of around 20 communities, roughly our size, from 7,500 to 8,500, which we fall exactly in the middle. And the salary range, we kind of looked at that, myself and Mr. Ritter, after I had looked at some stuff, and we came that, believe it or not, he's very close to the minimum salary, only less than $4,000 from the minimum we would see as a town administrator with some level of powers. And that would be from 70,000 to, say, in the 90,000 bracket.
Okay. Sue?
not to pick on Jeff and say that,
Go ahead.
but you're all worried about would we be able to pay him what a town administrator should be? Why? We're not paying anybody in this town, not the tax collector, not the assessor, not the town clerk, even close to, even the smaller towns, Hubbardston, Phillipston, Peterson.
Oh, I agree.
You know, so why should, no offense, Jeff.
Why should he?
That's what I'm saying, we can't afford anything else, how are we gonna afford that?
She's assuming I'm going to apply for the job.
It's gonna change your name tag.
Just gonna change your name.
All right, so the motion has been made and seconded just to accept this report for the town, nothing else for right now, and that's what we're voting on. Okay, Julie?
Yes.
Virginia?
Yes.
And Patrick?
Yes.
Okay. We are not going to discuss the next thing in open session.
Okay.
So, the other two, I have two other items of new business. New accounting software is one of them. I don't know who asked to put that on.
Well, I wanted to at least brief you, because it would be a town meeting article also.
Okay.
And I have draft article, a set of draft
Yeah,
articles.
we'll get into that. That's the next thing after this, so.
But let's do this first. We are-
Quiet, please.
The town is looking for new municipal accounting software. That's known as your general ledger. We have a package which is going defunct at June 30th. That's because it was written by our prior town accountant, Scott Sawyer, and they are no longer supporting this software as of June 30th. We continue to limp along with support, but it's time for the town to invest in what we might call a modern automated general ledger. There are many firms that supply this type of product. There are 4 or 5 in Massachusetts who produce because we're the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, we always have to do it a little differently than other states and municipalities. But there are 4 or 5 companies in Massachusetts who write municipal software that is specialized for the Commonwealth. It's not customized for an individual town, but special municipal accounting software designed to work under the laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I have requested quotations from 3 of them. I have received 2 of the 3 quotations. I'm waiting for a 3rd one. We would have to vote at town meeting regardless because there is no money in the budget to make this procurement. But I want the board to be aware that we certainly have alternatives that we can choose from, that it's going to cost Gulp $20,000 as a very close approximation to buy the license and own the software. You will pay a maintenance fee of about $2,000 to $2,500 each year after you buy it. You can buy it over time or buy it all at once, but it's about $20,000 is what we're talking about here. And I've put a request on the special town meeting warrant with that number in there just as a placeholder. We're going to have to do something, and it can't wait until May to the general town meeting. That's why I think we do it now, because once we do the procurement and buy the software, we put it in, we start loading it, we run side by side with our current set of books. We might shift over April 1, because that's the end of a quarter, in advance of the new fiscal year. So that's sort of the plan.
It's a better amount of money than I thought we were talking about. Originally, it wasn't it like more like 30, 35?
Yeah. And I've been negotiating. I might get it done for a little less. I've got them competing with each other. They're not too happy, right, Sue?
I got a call from our VADAR person.
We're not happy.
Yeah, who was, what's your town coordinator trying to do? I said, hey, he's under the gun. The Board of Selectmen telling him, down there, do this now. He needs answers.
I'm trying to squeak as loud as Mr. Spring. I'm working on it. I'm not quite that tight, but I'm working on it.
I told him I'm watching him.
I'm the squeaker.
Anybody have anything else on the new business?
I
Julie,
did.
you had something, right?
Yeah. It came up at the last meeting, and it bothered me because when I looked at the legal bill from Deutsch Williams, there was an item and it had my name, and I was like going, what the heck was that about?
Yeah.
And I remembered what it was about. So I want to share it with you. This is the email thread. It said it was referring to an email. I think there's enough for everyone. And what I had done, and I thought this was being done pro bono. Oh, okay. So that's why there's a bill. I thought it was pro bono, and it wasn't. Okay? What I had done was I had written an attachment to the original email, and it was referring to the problem that came up with the special election that was held on February 2nd, 2012. Our town council at the time, Lisa Mead, had a letter, and it broke down the steps to correct the procedural error that happened. And on the last paragraph, it raised an interesting question unbeknownst to me, and I had been a selectman for a while, and a lot of other people didn't know, that a sitting selectman could not sign the warrant for the election if they were going to get compensated. And after the meeting, I talked to Lisa, and she goes, I'd never heard of that before, and she couldn't get an opinion or a determination. She was just told that verbally by an attorney at Ethics, and her name was Amy Nee. So the warrant was signed by 3 selectmen, not myself or Mr. Mitchell, because, you know, we were under recall and that's what the election was for. So we had a conflict of interest in signing it. That's what this Amy Nee determined. Well, after that, I followed up and I tried to get the opinion, because this affects not just Templeton, it affects every selectman in the Commonwealth. And I'm like, well, they should be able to produce their reasoning as to why this was such a huge conflict all of a sudden, you know, on February 6th. You know, I've signed election warrants before when I was up for re-election and never heard boo, you know, nothing. So this is a major problem for the Commonwealth. And if you look at the email thread going back and forth, I sent it to Paul Durensis, who is our lead attorney for the town from Deutsch Williams. And the email started, and I sent this attachment, this letter to him as well, and it has active links, but they're not active on a piece of paper. Okay. And he wrote back that he just spoke to the State Ethics Commissioner, Director of Education, David Giannotti, whom I know from various presentations over the years across the state. First, as Templeton Town Council, I reviewed the issues in your memo and suggested an FAQ, frequently asked question, on the ethics website. Then, changing hats, I said to him that as the MMA, I represent 1,180 selectmen across the state who routinely sign election warrants without realizing there might be a problem. And we need some education by the Commission to protect all selectmen, not just Templeton selectmen, from inadvertent violations. Okay? So it's like ethics is playing gotcha. Okay? And the fines are quite steep. It's $10,000 to $25,000 if they find you guilty. So I'm signing an election warrant for a stipend of $3,000 a year, and then I'm going to turn around and get stung by ethics for $10,000 to $25,000. It just doesn't seem like a level playing field to me. All right? Mr. Giannotti countered by saying that recently the Town Clerks Association was abuzz with the issue of town clerks being on the ballot, yet the town clerk has to prepare the ballot. Yet another conflict. You know, I don't know why they're running around making up these conflicts, but they are. What the commission did was issue a regulation that worked around the problem, so he suggested that maybe the commission would want to promulgate a regulation that would work around this problem in order that selectmen could sign except in certain extreme circumstances. And he will talk with the commission and the staff and let me know whether they want to deal with this by changing the law by regulation or by wide education. Thanks for bringing this to my attention. You've helped everyone. And then it's signed Paul. Okay, that's what that was referencing. It was driving me nuts. I couldn't figure out what it was. But I wanted you all to know what it was. You have a copy of the email thread, and you can have a copy of this. It's not active links, but do you want this for your records? Have it added. Thank you. You're welcome. And I'm going to give one this way. I don't have a lot of copies of that. So.
That's it. No. You want to take this and copy it?
Okay. But I gave one to Kate, so she can get you a copy.
Okay.
Okay? So I just wanted to put that on the record.
Okay.
And if you want, I will pay for that part of the bill, because I didn't realize I was getting charged.
No, you're getting charged. Nobody asked you to do
No,
that.
but thank
Just
you for
wanted to
being
know it
open
was.
and letting us know.
So did you get a definitive answer?
Not
Apparently,
really,
they're
no.
still working on it. I don't want to call them. I'm not calling them.
Well, that's what Jeff said, he wanted to call him and tell him that, you know, we have a firm policy of going through him.
Right.
He said he's not sure he wants to call because it might cost us.
Right.
So you do, hand if you do, and you hand if you
One
don't.
other thing I have here is, at town meeting, it was voted for the CPC to give money to the Historical Society for Grange Hall, I believe, right?
Correct.
To do some renovations on it. So this is the grant agreement, and we just need to sign it. And it's already been voted by town meeting, so we don't need to do anything else. We just need to sign it before we leave tonight. Okay. Anybody else have anything new? Will?
New business.
Yep.
Thank you. I updated you folks as far as you had given me the okay to look into getting some estimates. I wanted to take and rehash those so that the general public is aware of those.
Okay. We're talking for East Templeton.
Right, for East Templeton School. I think that that was a televised one where we did talk about the cultural aspect, so that we're actually set for the CPC to go through that process, okay? That's number one. Number two is that we talked that evening, and I had one individual that said he would volunteer, and I had a few people that night volunteer. And I brought you up to speed, and I said 2 businesses have said that they would end up trying to incorporate their business as also volunteering. Since that time, I've had an additional couple people. Even after I spoke to you at the last meeting, I had another individual approach me. I have not even asked for people to volunteer. I will make that a request now for anybody that would like to volunteer to help in what we are going to do over to the East Templeton School, clean it up, and get that going. I've already talked to one individual as to get an estimate as to the roof. He's an estimator for a company, and this was just if they could end up doing the roof. He gave me a figure of between 10 and 20,000. He also ended up saying that the gutters would be, and this is fully burdened with the labor cost as well as the material, about $3,500. Okay, so we have that as going forward. With the board giving me the approval to go ahead with that, our town coordinator made some keys. I have a key, so it's a little easier for me to access that, to get over there to do that without bothering him, which I do a lot of lately. But on Wednesday, we have a number of people that have volunteered, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, that are going to go over, and we'll start looking at some of the things that we can do over there. And going forward, we will start to end up doing that. And I did put an article for the special town meeting. I think you'll be talking about that either later or next week. I won't say too much on that at this particular time, but I think that's the right thing to do. It would be there. And I'll leave that as to where we are at this particular present time. I will be talking with, I found out who the boiler people are, and that's Royalstein. I've got some contact information, which I just got today from Mr. Claiborne, as to who to talk to over there. And I will probably, within the next time we meet, or I have another opportunity, I'll update the selectmen as to what we plan there. And as I had stated earlier, maybe they will end up volunteering to give us a couple of their technicians to look at that boiler and give us some recommendations as to the feasibility of that boiler even starting up, or what we can end up doing on a replacement as an estimate, and as I committed to you, I will not spend 1 cent without coming back to this board. It's up to you to take it, end up going out for the bid process. It's up to you to go ahead with the CPC stuff. At that particular point, I will come back and say, okay, here it is, we have to progress in this particular direction, and this is what I found out as the minimum. So we're looking really, right now, as a minimum, looking at the roof, the gutters, and the boiler. And I think that the chairman, last week, myself and the coordinator all looked at that, and I'll let you talk about your looking at the building, because I looked at it from my point of view and said that building is very structurally sound, and cosmetically, it's not, it needs some loving, tending care.
Yeah, it does need some TLC, but I did walk through there last Thursday with Mr. Ritter and Mr. Spring. I hadn't been in that building in quite a few years. There is a lot of room there, and I think they're right. I think we can get most people in there. And I'm going to say it, and I'm going to say it, and I'm going to say it, and I'm going to say it until we get proof. My only concern in that building is air quality. It's been my concern from day one. I had 4 kids go through that school. 3 of them came out of that school with asthma. 2 of them still have it today. 1 has outgrown it. But the air quality in that school is my biggest concern. And it will be until I'm proven that it's okay.
One of the things to address that, one of the
And it wasn't just my kids either. There was a lot of students in that 3 or 4 year span where my kids went through that came out of there with asthma.
I didn't take that lightly, and I looked back and I said, okay, my children had already been through that school also, and I looked at the students that they were that age, and there wasn't a problem. So I'm not sure if it's environmental or there has been an increase nationwide with that type of thing for children. And I'm not here as a medical person to pass.
Well, my children are, fairly recent. 7, 8 years ago, they would have been in that school because they're seniors this year.
One of the things that will help out is one of the companies will do a remediation of the carpets. That's not only just cleaning them, that's getting them sterilized and actually bringing them back to life.
So, but that's my only concern. And
that's a major thing.
It is. People were worried about the air quality at 252 when we were talking about that building. They should be just as concerned about this building. So, other than that, I think the building itself is a good size. We will need to obviously do some handicap accessibility issues, because we will need to make that up to date so people can get in and out of the building. But, the more we can get volunteer
work. You saw
work.
the back door is quite accessible, and it looks like the primary area that we would end up having handicapped access for that first floor. And that, I think, would take the lion's share of our, as far as what we need to end up doing for handicap accessibility. Downstairs.
You'll need one for downstairs if that's where the meeting
It would be a different story. That would be probably a little more expensive, and that's something that over time, I think we would have to look at that.
Kirk, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just got a couple of questions, I guess. I'm all for if we can make something out of that school, great. Has the town done a hazmat survey on that through an LSP between, just what I'm getting at is that if we're gonna have volunteers, which is great, it's the only way we're gonna get it done on the cheap or whatever. But when you, not only asbestos you have to worry about, but you start disturbing tiles, there's maybe asbestos in the tiles, there's asbestos in the mastic, there may be, now we're gonna have to worry about lead paint. All these things need to be addressed in a different way versus if you were just gonna demolish a building, you go and take the asbestos out.
Right.
And some asbestos-containing materials, small percentages could go with demo. But lead paint's not usually an issue when you're doing full demo, but you're not, you'd be doing selective demo. I mean, there could be asbestos, which is very prone in just window caulking and door caulking. So before anybody goes in there with his tool belt, even from a volunteer's perspective, great. But if you mess with the DEP underneath your regs, know about it, it's $25,000 a day fine. I don't think we want to start the project that way. So I think it'd be ill-advised that we get an LSP up there, so we have to do a full-blown environmental study of the building just for that. Because it could be even in the old wooden gutters, the caulking on it, it could have asbestos in it. And we just don't want to take a chance, and if you're disposing of this certain building products that have lead paint, there's remediations for that as well, so. I'm just giving you a heads up, because I know the industry has something we need to look forward, look at.
That's a good point. Very good point. Yes.
After all this is said and done and okayed, have we looked into it enough to know that these quote volunteers unquote, if the town is not gonna get bit by this prevailing wage baloney? And say that you gotta pay somebody $28 an hour because you're taking that out of the pocket of some painter that you're unemployed because you're doing it? Do we know that we're not gonna get screwed at that end?
I'd love to address this.
Go ahead,
We don't even have a plan. We don't have a list of
At this point, I
volunteers.
realize-
You guys are diving off the high board into an empty swimming pool. Your legitimate points hold the fire until we even have a concept to present. And absolutely, those are legitimate questions. I'm not sure what Mr. Spring's referring to when he says remediation. The remediation I'd be talking about is literally cleaning the windows, scrubbing the carpets, and washing the walls. No tool belt, no chipping, no paint, no demo, no. No to all those questions at this stage. Clearly can be very problematic if you start busting into interior walls that have asbestos pipes.
Yes.
I think, when you talk about air quality, I don't think there can be a place as bad as this one. I walked in the hall this summer, and all the doors were shut, and I just said, I don't know how you people stand it. I've never smoked. I have a good nose, and the air was horrendous. So getting out of here about as quick as we can is about the best thing we can do for the people that work here. Getting the people out of that little building where the tax collector is.
She's here.
Town clerk is about the best thing you can do for them. So I think that we can't.
I know.
can't
Oh, I
do that wrong.
understand, but we don't want to put it from one bad to another bad, though.
Remediation, as far as the paint goes, is to paint over the existing. That's what they do for remediation without scraping it off. I'm not advocating that we pull asbestos off pipes. I'm not advocating that we tear down walls. I'm looking at very simple things. There's coat hangers in, as you saw, there's little hangers there. I'm talking about taking that down, the metal down there. We don't need that material minimally. I'm talking about, basically it's a cleanup and looking at the stuff that's there as excess and bringing it upstairs and getting rid of the excess